I'm Steve Mallett. I'm out at the Middle Earth Disc Golf Course here in sunny central Alberta. We're about 2 minutes from the lovely North Saskatchewan River, 40 minutes outside of Edmonton, and we just completed the Battle for Middle Earth, the third annual, in which Chad Gamelin is now the ring bearer for the year. In any case, this is one of Chad's creations. It's a bit of a wacky course in some respects, but we sure had fun. Anyways, Frisbee for me. Rob McLeod's asked me to tell you about my history. I've been throwing discs for quite a while. My earliest memories, I guess, would be being out at Pigeon Lake. We had a family cabin at Mamio Beach. And at some point for a Christmas present, we ended up with one of those Frisbee horseshoe sets. The collectors will know exactly what this is. And yeah, the discs are all gone. It was 3 red and 3 yellow Frisbees, and you had to chuck them through a little hoop. And eventually they all got lost under the porch. And I have one of the, it looks like some kind of a Pluto platter or something, one of the original red ones left in a box somewhere. So that was my start. I'm not saying we played it a lot, but that was what we did. And then I had my godfather actually was a pilot for PWA Airlines back in the day. He would come out, I was around 12 or 13, and we'd go down the beach to throw Frisbee, and he kind of showed me how to get it to curve a little bit, and I remember he was really good. And we'd go walking down the beach, and it became apparent very quickly that the reason he liked Frisbee on the beach was you could go and look at the girls. So he kept saying things like, you see over there, you know, and the Frisbee would go over there, and I'd say, and I didn't know what he was talking about. I was only 12 years old. But Frisbee on the beach is a wonderful thing. And from there, for me, it was actually the have fun, invent games thing kind of came into play. And I remember being in college at Grant MacEwan Music School, and I had a couple buddies that were into Frisbee enough, and we'd go and play games, and we had a game where we would try and score on the opposing soccer net, one-on-one, and playing tons of catch, of course. And that morphed with a couple guys, I was in a band, and a couple of the guys in the band and I, and the college music student buddies, we had a game that we came up with. We actually wrote out some rules for this game. The first rule was, oddly enough, be a good sport at all times, in brackets, if at all possible. My friend had me add that. So it was called the NAFL, it was the Northern Alberta Frisbee League. And it was a passing game where you passed from player to player, and as soon as someone touched you, you had to stop and then pass to somebody else. You couldn't keep running. So it was very ultimate-like. We had no idea we were playing ultimate. And now that I think of it, there was a little Frisbee football in junior high that we played at recess sometimes, and at lunchtimes. Anyway, so that migrated into this, and it was the Northern Alberta Frisbee League. We only played it once. It was a passing game. You had to score into a soccer net, and it had a bunch of flaws, I won't kid you. But oddly enough, 1 week later, I was at a friend's place, and he said, yeah, Steve, you're into Frisbee. My buddy Scott over here is into Frisbee. Guy's name was Scott Dorward. He was at the U of A. I think he was from Yellowknife. And he was playing ultimate with the ultimate crowd down at Horilac Park in Edmonton. And so when I started playing ultimate, there was maybe some days we get, if we were lucky, we'd get 7-on-7. We played a lot of hot box drills, and we had no idea what we were doing. But eventually, in '94, I was involved helping the guys out, and we ran our first 4-team ultimate league in Edmonton. It was the green team, the blue team, the black team, and etc. And man, those were great times. You know, it was free-flowing ultimate. It was just a lot of great people, a lot of love. The spirit of the game was huge in Edmonton. We'd go to tournaments and try and represent. We'd go to Hoedown, that was the big one in Calgary, of course, and get our butts kicked and end up playing for last place with Lasqueti Island and the Winnipeg 3 team and that sort of thing. And we had a great time. It was fantastic. So I guess I played ultimate from about, 91 through about 98. And then Scott Dorward, the guy who got me involved in ultimate, brought some golf discs out. Apparently, even back then, there was an object course in Whitehorse. It's Yellowknife, Northwest Territories, Yellowknife. And he's been playing disc golf up there. So he gave us these golf discs, and you know, we're ultimate players, and we'd throw the thing and it would go, and we'd say, that's stupid. And I think that was about 95, maybe 96. By the fall of 96, the fever hit us somehow. Now at that time there was a 9-hole saucer golf course at Rundle Park in Edmonton. Calgary had a 9-hole course at Pierce Estate, and I believe Canmore had its baskets, and that was about it. Courses, Craig Burrows Johnson was massive. He had a connection with the seniors games and started putting courses into Three Hills, Olds, Cardston. I think the Canmore thing, well, it was the same baskets. I'm not sure if that was a seniors connection, but all these courses started propping up in southern Alberta. In Edmonton, we had the 9 saucer cones. You had to hit the metal cone and the disc would deflect in. It was really annoying, but that's what we had to work with. So we built an 18-hole object course at Horlock Park where we played Ultimate. And that was our home base for a while. We started playing more at Rundle. I had to get laser eye surgery done. This is where this happened. Went to Calgary for laser eye surgery and thought I better go check out this Pierce Estate disc golf because I think I'd looked it up on the internet in an internet cafe or something. The internet was brand new. This was 96 or so. And sure enough, got to Pierce Estate and heard the ching of the chains, and that was it. Stopped playing Ultimate in about 1998 and was just a full-time disc golf addict for sure. There was 2 or 3 of the Ultimate guys that were crossover players, Scott, Gil, Velasquez, some of the guys back then. And I remember I wanted to take it one step further. Rundle Park wasn't satisfying because it was only 9 holes. It was laid out as near as we could tell in 1980. And we needed to do something with that and expand it and get chains. So I went to see a guy from the city. He said, Steve, it's no problem. Here's all you need to do. Form a club, start running some events, get yourself registered as a not-for-profit society, sort of form a little league if you can. And he gave me a checklist of stuff before he even said, start worrying about writing up a grant or anything. So slowly, things just kind of landed. We're up playing the world's biggest disc golf tournament, John Houck's thing. There was, I think, 7 of us in 1998, May 6th and 7th. Oh, testing the old memory. And so we were doing world's biggest. We had the t-shirts and the discs. We ordered the players' packages. And there was a couple guys barbecuing on the first hole. And they said, hey, what are you doing? And of course, like anybody else who asked us what we were doing, we'd show them a disc, show them the target, tell them what it was about. And promotion was really big. That was kind of what I was all about there for a long time, was showing people the game, calling the media out to events. I always thought that was kind of a huge thing because you never know who's going to see that. Maybe your alderman or the mayor, somebody's going to see it, and that way your process is going to be a little quicker. But we had a lot of media coverage and stuff. But yeah, going back to World's Biggest, there was a couple guys on the course with their families barbecuing. What are you guys doing? Boom, boom, boom. Turns out the one guy's a welder. Scott Perot, he says, I'm a welder. I could eventually, he starts playing. He says, we should take these things down and cut off the cones and hang chains on them. Thinking, going, oh. And you know, the only thing that stopped me from jumping up and down, because it's a great idea, and we did it, but the thing that was bugging me was it sacrilege to alter the cone targets and cut the metal cones out. So we went and got the chains hung on, boom. From there, chains were in Edmonton. Eventually we got a club in 2000. We registered it as a not-for-profit. And as far as my experience with Frisbee at that point, I was a pretty good Ultimate player. I certainly wasn't a world-class player or anything, but there was a couple of us that had the big arms. Gil and I would stay at the field all day long and throw hammers and forehands back and forth to each other, and got to be a pretty good distance thrower. So when golf came around, it was a fairly easy transition as far as the power. Learning the disc was another thing, but that got me into the game because I was already kind of a big arm, I guess. Did pretty well at the long drives back in the day and that sort of thing. Played pretty well. I had one year, my best year, I think, on the Alberta Tour, where I came in second in just about everything. It's always one shy. Second at the Alberta Open, third at the BC Open, BC Championship, second at the Canadian Championship. That was a big thing. Finally, I decided I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of stuff that they were telling me was ahead of my time. We weren't ready for it yet. Did it anyway. Canadian Championship. I designed and installed a course at a private facility north of Edmonton. It was a 27-hole course in the middle of an open field, essentially. It was nuts. And had a Canadian Championship because the Ultimate guys came to me and said, Steve, we're running Edmonton Nationals, Ultimate Nationals in Edmonton in 2001. I'm like, oh, dun, 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 2001. And they said, we want you to run a golf event, but here's the hitch. It's going to be on the Tuesday and Wednesday. Sure. And we had about 70 players, as I remember, something like that. And it was great. It was great. good friend from New Zealand / Calgary, Mark Dakov, took it down, beat me in a playoff. But we had an amazing couple of days up there. That was a fun course. And so from there, it's just been all love of the game since then. Ran the club for a few years, and then some of the guys started stepping up. Wally O'Valley stepped up and has run the Edmonton club. Ran it for 6 or 7 years and has run an incredible amount of tournaments. I got up to about 25 tournaments as far as the volunteering end of it, and that was it. Eventually, you just tire of things or whatever it is. But always enjoyed doing it. Always enjoyed playing. Always enjoyed the people that you play with. The Frisbee family is awesome. And again, for myself personally, I did get to Minnesota to the Worlds in 2001. And it may be my proudest moment, I guess, as far as accomplishments in Frisbee golf in northern Alberta, was coming 10th in the distance competition by just a hair kind of thing. It cost $10 to sign up for the long drive, and I got a check for $11. So I made $1 US, never cashed the check. Kind of a nice trophy. And yeah, from there it's a guy gets older and you just can't throw as hard anymore. But like right now, it's the end of the season. Obviously, we've got, for some reason, a blizzard here in early October, but we had a good day and life's good. But I did work on cruise ships for a year and a half, and when I was out, I would make a point of looking up courses. Is there a course in Hawaii? I met a guy in Hawaii. I can't remember his name right now, I'm sorry. Took me up to a peak and teed one off over Honolulu kind of thing. Went forever. When I was in Florida, I got to play with Dan Berman in the doubles round at Tradewinds Park. And they had a pick your partner doubles, and Dan and I beat Ron Russell that day by 2 strokes. Maybe the best day of golfing in my life. I hit 2 from 150, 200 feet, the really unusual ones. And that was the difference. Just lucky, just feeling good. When I was at Worlds, I met Ken Climo, Barry Schultz. I got a disc with all their signatures. It's very special to me. Scott Stokely, met John Houck, and that was a thrill. Ed Hedrick was there. I believe that was his last Worlds. I'm not sure, 100% sure about that. But I missed a chance to meet him, and I do regret that because, he's the reason that we have these silly things. It was his genius flash of inspiration that came up with a chain wrapping around a disc to catch it, and that's just a huge part of what this game is about. So I regret that a little bit, but I did meet a lot of the big names, played around with Sharon Jenkins. Met Avery, although it would have been briefly. So that was my experience of it. Played with a couple of guys from Minnesota who were heavyweights. Again, I couldn't say for sure the names, but what I gotta say, it doesn't matter where you're from. If you enjoy disc golf enough, and if you do, then Worlds is gotta be something you gotta go to at least once. It's fantastic. The fly mart, the people. You're mingling with the history of this sport. So I was always felt very fortunate to have got to that. And I should make it a point to get to a Worlds again. I really should. It's incredible. What I think about Frisbee in general, if I was to introduce it to somebody that had never heard of it before, I would have to say that the feeling, and I'm going to steal this phrase from somewhere I know I am, to throw a flying disc with distance and accuracy is a marvelous sensation. That's at the beginning of a book somewhere, I know it is. And honestly, that's the best line I can think of. Whether it's your throw or someone else's, when you see a flying disc thrown well that just weaves around a corner and misses the object and gets you in close to the basket, it really is a marvelous sensation. Throwing for distance is great if you can do it, but it's the challenge of the game. And there's so many ways to play Frisbee. You can play catch with your friend. That's all it has to be. That can be the most joyous thing that there is, And in fact, with disc golf, you miss that because the only guy that catches it is this, and he doesn't throw it back. So playing catch on the beach it can start right there, and then it's up to you. Ultimate is an incredible, exciting team sport that doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Disc golf is an incredibly challenging individual sport that doesn't get the recognition it deserves. I don't know if I met Stork, by the way, but I have to say that Stork is a big proponent of team play in disc golf, and I really think in a lot of ways that should be part of the future of what this sport is all about. When you're playing for yourself, it's selfish, isn't it? It's you in the course. It gets really easy to beat yourself up if you make a bad shot. It gets really easy to develop an ego. Experience, yeah, guilty right here. So I think team play is marvelous because you're part of a community. You're helping out your buddies. You're more likely to want to cheer the guys you're playing with on because they're playing for the same team as you, even if it's just for fun. So again, Frisbee is a wonderful, joyous thing. I can't thank Rob McLeod enough for what he's done for the sport. We've never had an ambassador in Alberta that's done the things that Rob's done. So, kudos and all the best to you, Rob. You're an amazing guy, and we all love you.